Hey folks, George Bunny here, One Nation. I just had a thought, and not a thought, but what's a real feeling? You know, America is our country, but they ain't our nation. Let me say it again. America is our country, but they ain't our nation. Now, I said something like that, and I had somebody ask, another black person, why did I feel that way? Another veteran, because I am a veteran, I served, said, why did I feel that way? I said, well, you look at it, we have the largest prison system in the world, but 50% of the prisoners are black people. 50% of black people. You can't tell me in a country where we're only 16% or 18% of the population that 50% of us belong in prison. That's one thing. And then another thing, you look at I'm just going to go through the history that we have, not even going into like slavery and Civil War and Jim Crow period. I'm just going to go just start from the 1900s. In the 1900s in Florida, they used black babies as gator bait to catch alligators. They call them pickaninnies. They would use these babies as bait for alligators. If the baby survived, that was one thing, but the ones that didn't survive, they were mauled. Well, they took it, they dried the skin and sold pictures of that. They put the heads on poles and let them dry it out. They sold shrunken heads. And you say, well, oh my God, and you have white folks today say that didn't really happen. That was just folklore. It's not folklore. It really happened. It really happened. The same way the picnics after church really happened. You pick a nick and we lynch him after church. That really happened. Say America's our country, but they ain't our nation. And I'm just give a little quick chronology of like what we have to deal with in this country. So for us to consider ourselves part of the nation is like, it's idiotic. It's idiotic to think that we're part of this nation. We're part of this country. We're not part of the nation. And let's do a little chronology. Let's start like February 20th, 1901, Mena, Arkansas. They lynched black man, Peter Berryman. Then they ran all the rest of the black population out of Mena. August 18th, 1901, Pierce City, Missouri. They ran all the black people out of there. They lynched 3 of them, but they either killed or expelled the rest. July 9th, Sour Lakes, Texas. 500 whites opened fire on blacks. America's our country, but they ain't our nation. July 1917, the East St. Louis Massacre. They say as little as 40 black people were killed and up to 250 people. That was the St. Louis Massacre. May 19th, 1980, Mary Turner of Georgia was trying to defend her husband who was being beaten. She was 8 months pregnant. They took and they beat her. They tortured her. And they cut her baby from her womb. Yeah, no, America is our country, but they ain't our nation. November 2nd through the 3rd, 1920, Ocoee, Florida. Over 500 blacks were killed or expelled because they wanted to vote. May 31st, 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Everybody knows about Tulsa, Black Wall Street. A white woman in the elevator said that the teenage black boy did something to her. That led to 300 black people being killed and 10,000 left homeless after they burnt their whole city out. What's so sad about that, they burnt the city out. They actually had airplanes dropping cocktails on the city. Nobody was arrested for that. As a matter of fact, a lot of people were deputized. America is our country, but they ain't our nation. January 1923, Rosewood, Florida. White woman said something else. They burned down Rosewood. 150 black people were killed. 1954, Vienna, Illinois. White woman claimed something else happened. They burnt all the black homes out. America is our country, but they ain't our people. They ain't our nation. You know, anytime we try and speak up, or a black person tries to stand up for black rights, they do the same thing all over again. January 17th, 1961, Patrice Lumumba. He's the president of Congo. He went against Belgium, the white authority. He was subsequently taken out to the desert, beaten, cut in pieces. Not just him and his two aides. They were cut in pieces and put in barrels of acid. Well, they buried them first. They came back and took them out and put their bodies in barrels of acid. Medgar Evers, June 12th, 1963. He's coming home from an NAACP meeting. Byron D. LeBeckwith is waiting in the bushes across from his house and shot him. Byron D. LeBeckwith went free until he was an old man in his 70s, sickly, before they finally brought him to justice. Malcolm X, February 21st, 1965. He was shot in the ballroom and by other Muslims, but who was behind that? Once again, America is our country, but they ain't our nation. Martin Luther King, April 4th, 1968. Standing on the balcony at the Lorraine Motel, and he's shot, assassinated. Fred Hampton, December 4th, 1969. The FBI paid a Black Panther informant who was a friend of Fred Hampton's, who drugged him up and opened the door to let them in. And he was assassinated. Thomas Sankara, over in Burkina Faso, tried to lift his people up, tried to protect the sovereignty of his country, tried to protect their gold and their minerals, to use it for his people. The American government, CIA, French government, they used his friend, who ended up shooting him and becoming the president for the next 20 years, giving them everything they wanted. October 20th, 2011, Muammar Gaddafi tried to introduce the gold standard for spending in Africa. Tried to unify Africa, African unification moment. What'd they do? He was assassinated. So once again, America is our country, but they ain't our nation. We know who's with us and who isn't. If you have to negotiate your humanity with someone, they don't deserve your grace. We don't owe them anything. We share the same country, but they ain't our nation.